Hello, Tarot viewers. Welcome to our timeless oracle reading. And our oracle card for today belongs to the Guiding Light Oracle. Now, the card for today is entitled Supernova. An aspect of your personality, your ego self, must die to make way for a new shiny star to be born. If you look at the picture of this card, it's very interesting. It shows a star that explodes, no? Because a supernova is an old star that is dying, and the old star dies by exploding. And as the old star explodes, new stars are born. And new elements are also created. So from the dying of an old star, new life begins. When you look at the picture of this card, what you will see is something like a butterfly. The explosion of the supernova, when you look at the picture, is like a butterfly spreading its wings and beginning life anew. From a caterpillar, it finally spreads its wing. The butterfly also symbolizes transformation. And when you look at the process of transformation, part of that process is dying to ourselves. The supernova is a star, okay? It's an old star. And it has to die to itself in order that new stars will be born. Somehow, when I look at that symbolism, the old star is that self-concept that we have, that we should be always sort of like in the limelight. Somehow it's like the mechanism of the ego. Now, in order for us to really transform and become mature, sometimes the universe creates crises like tower moments, which can be also akin or similar to the explosion of the supernova. It's the explosion of our belief in our capacity as a person. And what happens is that it's like the dying of the pride in ourselves, the dying of the pride of the ego, in order that a newer, humbler, transformed person will be born. So, part of our transformation is that we need to die in our ego, to die in our belief that we are a star, that we should always be the center of attention. If before our mechanism in our life is to always try to be in the limelight, when we undergo this transformation, it's like the star is exploding. Before we look at ourselves as the attention or should always be in the limelight, we put emphasis on ourselves. When the tower moment comes, which triggers a transformation, or which somehow leads to the beginning of a transformation, the ego begins to die. And then instead of putting ourselves in the limelight, we start to realize that it is important for us to be guided by the Spirit, by the Divine. And so if in the past we are in the limelight, now it is the Divine that goes to the forefront. The Divine is the one who is already leading us, and every good thing that is happening to us, we now attribute to the generosity of the Divine. From being proud, humility starts to develop. So part of the transformation is the dying of the superego, or the dying of the ego, and the rebirth into a superego. The superego is one that is guided by the universe. When we have that superego, the superego is like symbolizes our conscience, the one that tells us the right path. So we learn to be docile to the Spirit, and the Spirit takes the forefront. And this is part of our transformation, the dying of the ego. Part of the dying of the ego is feeling that sense of loneliness. Uh, One good symbolism or parallelism that we can find in the moment of transformation is the story of the phoenix that is rising. Right, that phoenix. The story of the phoenix is that they say a phoenix is a very special kind of bird that lives for 400 centuries. I think 400 centuries, 400 years. It lives for 400 years alone, without any companion. In a certain sense, when you undergo transformation, there will be moments when you will feel alone, especially when you already undergo the changes. It's like the caterpillar entering a pupa or a cocoon. They will have to undergo the transformation alone. And that is one reality of a person who surrenders to the transformation process. When we undergo transformation, we undergo certain changes that is no longer the same to the contemporary situation. The way we act, the way we look at life will slowly become different, and in a certain sense, some people will not understand the changes that are happening in us. And so there comes a moment when we feel alone because we feel that people no longer understand the people who used to be with us, somehow with the changes that is happening with you, especially when the changes starts to become very rapid, or it becomes the process of transformation becomes a little bit more rapid than it was before. Sometimes you change to a point when the people who used to understand you and used to journey with you no longer understand what is happening in you, because you are already transforming and your point of view is already changing. And so the people who used to enjoy being with you somehow couldn't understand anymore the changes that are happening in you. And so sooner or later, there will be a moment wherein you might feel alone. But then as you undergo that transformation, you start to get used to that being alone, and you find joy in being alone because you could spend more time understanding the changes that are happening in you, and also learning the lessons that the universe is constantly teaching you. So what happens is you get used to being alone, just like the phoenix. And when the time comes for you to completely undergo transformation, just like the phoenix, after 400 years of being alone, it suddenly explodes like a supernova. The phoenix dies. It dies and becomes ashes. And from that ashes, so the phoenix explodes like a supernova, and what is left are the ashes. And from that ashes, a new phoenix is born. And so it happens to that point where we constantly undergo dying to our ego, and somehow part of it also is undergoing the dark night of the soul, where we are really being purified by the fire of the transformation. And when we finally reach that point of the complete dying from our old self, a new self is born. Just as the explosion of the supernova, from that explosion, new elements are formed and new stars are formed. Just as the explosion of a phoenix, a new phoenix is born. So too in our spiritual journey, when finally the ego dies to itself, a new transformed version of ourselves is born. And a new chapter begins. A chapter where you become a cup that overflows, a cup that enriches everyone around you, everything around you, a cup that constantly renews the universe, not just through the lessons that you are sharing to other people, sometimes even just by your presence. So this is what we can find. This card of the Supernova is rich with insights and reflections regarding transformation. Now, to end this reflection, I'd like to invite you to listen to this handbook that accompanies this card, and we will read what is being described here regarding supernova. A supernova is the death of a star. Much like the supernova, you are releasing turbulence and built-in energy that are ready to be transmuted into light and love. The process of death and dying is essential to being reborn. To transform from the inside out, you must allow layers from within to be released. This allows the hidden light from your soul essence, to burst wide open, revealing and integrating aspects of your soul self you never knew existed. Everything from within is going through a transmutation process, a process of the old dying, so something new can be born. Your angels and guides are surrounding you now and assisting you with any uncomfortable feelings. You may notice a deep emptiness within you, or even a need to cry while this process is taking place. You may often find yourself feeling like an inner part of you is dying, or that you are no longer the same person. When this process is complete, you will be ready to take part in a brand new era, essentially a brand new you. Only the aspects of your inner self that are no longer serving you are going through this process. All other aspects of your personality are being preserved and renewed so that when the time is right, you can re-enter the world and shine brighter than ever before. Take time to be alone so you can process and release the turbulence within you. This is one of the most profound inner transformations possible. Get ready to shine and allow the truest version of you to be seen in the world in a way that impacts everyone around you. So, if any of you who are listening right now are undergoing tower moments, crises, moments of not being understood, a certain longing to be alone, a certain longing, a certain realization that certain parts of you need to let them go, a certain realization that there is a need for you to change certain aspects of your life. Just allow the Spirit to accompany you and to guide you through this process. Allow yourself to undergo the process of the supernova. Allow yourself to undergo the process of dying to your old self so that your new self will be reborn or be brought to the light, be brought to life, so that a new you will be able to enrich the universe that is awaiting to hear that song you are meant to sing. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for the likes and the comments you've given to the channel. I hope that this has helped you in your present journey or at least given some answers to your questions. And I look forward to seeing you again next time. Until that moment, may God continue to bless your ways.